artist statement. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of my artwork, and then I will eventually read one of my artist statements, and I want you guys to ask yourself, if the words that are coming out of my mouth match the ideas and the images that you're seeing. You guys think you can do that? You think you can do that? Yeah, you're not quite sure? All right. Okay, so these are paintings that you're going to see. These are not photographs. The size of this is about 2 feet by 4 feet. Anybody into Game of Thrones? Winter is coming. Right? The size of this one is 4 feet by 6 feet. And I did this painting on drugs. You guys aren't even, like I thought, on drugs.
They're just very polite. Is really.
Some of you guys stumbled away. Let me explain myself. I skateboard. Well, let me explain myself. I skateboard, and at the time I had knee surgery. So I pop a couple of Percocet, sit down at my easel and be like, whoa, this is what water looks like. You know. But you can get just as good of results without using performance-enhancing drugs. In fact, as I mentioned, I skateboard, and for a while, besides hurting my knees, I hurt my wrist. And so I had to start painting with my non-dominant hand. I'm right-handed, so this painting, most of the painting was done with my left hand. I even started to do some really funky things in the studio where I do this really bad white guy dance. I hold my paintbrush in one hand and I would just kind of do this, and that's how I got a lot of these blades of grass. If you ask me to try to sign my name left-handed, it's still gonna be pretty squiggly, but by working larger, the size of this painting is about 54 inches by about 36, 38 inches, so it's bigger. A lot of the paint is actually kind of really squiggly anyway. But there are some areas where I just had to take just a tiny bit of paint on my brush and just line that up. Thank you. Composition is really important to me, and sometimes I invent things. So I have not invented the natural world, but this painting is extremely inventive. It was a nice sunny day, the day I was there, and this was all muddy. So I thought that having some waves come back here, using line to take the viewer's eyes back here, and then using color in terms of, instead of a bright blue sky, I wanted to make it more twilight. And I thought that that would make the painting even more moody. And these two trees were here, but this one was not. And so notice how this really helps balance this over here. And without this tree, the composition becomes very lopsided, almost like a teeter-totter. And this is when the person steps off the teeter-totter and then everything kind of falls over on that side. So I'm thinking about how to really compose and trying to balance my compositions. I've also spent some time doing artist residencies. And an artist residency is where a place will ask you to come and talk, maybe give a workshop, and maybe even show your artwork. And then they usually, sometimes they feed you, but they will put you in a cabin or something like that. And this is from Denali National Park in Alaska. And I actually waded into this glacier-fed stream. The water temperature was about 34 degrees, just above freezing. So I was like, hypothermia. I snapped a couple of pictures, and then I worked on this in my studio. People often ask me, when I was in Alaska, did I see bear? And the answer is yes, I saw them every day. So it's kind of crazy when you're painting and you're on the food chain. It's like extreme painting. I've gone to lots of national parks. This is from Yellowstone National Park. If you ever get a chance to paint lightning, it's get enough of it. So when I was actually there, I did see that bolt of lightning, and after painting that, I was like, ooh, that's so fun, I'm gonna paint more. So compositionally, I think these make a nice rhythm and really help balance things out. I also learned how to weld for this particular painting, and that's why those train spikes, those railroad spikes, seem like they're floating. They're actually anchored in from the back. I welded them in from the back. And when I was out in Yellowstone, I found out that the railroads were one of the reasons why the buffalo almost faced extinction, because hunters would just ride the trains and just shoot them, and then they'd take the hide. So this is called demise of the buffalo. I started making these frames, and I construct things, I paint them, and all of this led me to trying to make narrative paintings. Narrative paintings tell stories, and so I was trying to tell stories with some of my landscapes, and it eventually led me to start to include figures in my paintings. So I'm going to read my artist statement now, and I want you to ask yourself if what you're seeing matches the words that are coming out of my mouth. You guys think you can do that? All right. My desire to explore the human experience by the metaphor of landscape led me to include figures within nature. I hope that the viewer reads these as metaphysical senses of place. The natural landscape serves as a backdrop to moments of human action, but the emotions conveyed tap into grand, universal themes. I aim to make these events feel as real as possible through an attention to detail, in hopes that they overwhelm the viewer. In an age where photographs are so readily available, I lend importance to the image by the meditative act of rendering it in paint. After conceiving an idea for a painting, I undertake vigorous photo shoots and call through dozens of reference photos before I start to paint. I look to my painting heroes and often borrow or adapt gestures, scenes, and compositions to have deep conversations with art history. I cast my models as archetypes, and they often in some way have lived these roles. The paintings portray facets of the universal human condition, such as loss, doubt, wisdom, and faith, as to enlighten and remind viewers of their own humanity. On reflection, I realized that these cinematic paintings depict people facing the most elemental conflict in nature, life and death, and they often ask more questions than they answer. As a painter, when I make an image, it is a still thing. It doesn't move. Trying to create a story is slightly difficult because of that. When I show you these two paintings, I bet your first instinct was, why is he showing us two of the same paintings? But after closer investigation, I bet your eyes flitted back and forth, and you start to see subtle differences between the two paintings. Have you noticed those? And so you, the viewer, are creating a sense of the narrative here. When these two paintings are exhibited, I like to have them exhibited right next to each other so that the viewer does have this different type of experience besides looking at just a still painting. I mean, each painting can stand up on its own, but together next to each other, they start to create a little bit more of a narrative. I think it's very hard to do that as a painter. Our culture is riveted by the movies. Just last night, they had the Golden Globes, right? And also, I would ask you guys, over your break, how many movies did you see? Maybe 2? 3? More? Okay. How many museums did you visit over break? 1 or none, right?
Good job.
Okay, so you can see I rest my case in that we are really linked to movies. I love movies. I love watching movies. But I also think it's really important to go to art museums. And I'm trying to sometimes bridge that gap. And I want you guys to sometimes think of my movies as film stills. Okay? Have any of you ever been faced with the experience of making a split-second decision? This guy right here has that happening. He knows he has to do something. He has to react. Otherwise, that fire is going to get out of hand relatively soon. By putting the viewpoint behind this participant, it also starts to make you get into the mindset of the participant in the painting. Occasionally, I think about some of my dreams that I've had or nightmares, and I put people into my paintings that might end up being sort of stand-ins for myself. In this case, I've had recurring dreams of tornadoes all my life since I saw one when I was a kid. It was off on the horizon, so I was safe, but like just seeing this like tornado on the horizon has kind of stayed with me. And so here we have someone who's possibly going to try to take on the tornado with an old rusty chainsaw. It just doesn't seem like it's going to turn out very well for him.
I have a question about that. When
Yeah.
so you mentioned photo shoots. So did you set up a photo shoot for this?
Yeah.
And did you set it up with like the intention, like, oh, I had this dream, or did that sort of develop?
That's a good question. Sometimes they develop. Sometimes, like I have this idea, and I'm going to make this happen. In this case here, the photo shoot, I usually take about 200 to 400 photos. This is one of my former students, and he tended to take on things like that were just way too big. So in a sense, like it's,
It's fitting.
You're not going to fight a tornado with this rusty old chainsaw. But anyway, once I was in his studio, I'm like, ooh, I would love to paint that chainsaw. And then he's just got this really almost like 19th century look about him, and I was like, man, let's set up a painting photo shoot. He's house sat for me and watched my animals. So anyway, when I had I just loved how this is almost in the center, but it's not. And I was like, there's got to be something that he's looking at. I'm like,
Okay.
a tornado.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's one of those things where you're working and you're waiting for the muses to sometimes give you that inspiration. Like you're like, I'm going to work on this and something is going to happen. Sometimes it does. You always hope it does.
Could I ask a follow-up question? Sorry
Yeah.
if I'm
No.
messing up your talk.
No.
Do you do studies of those things, or are you just kind of at the point where you're like, I'm just going to go for it? Because does that make sense?
Yeah. Sometimes I don't necessarily do studies, but I will do little sometimes thumbnail sketches, and I'll be like, I need to try to make a painting of this. And
Okay.
then what happens with my photo shoots, I usually give I'll give my actors or actresses a storyboard, and a lot of times
wow.
there are paintings that I really like or film stills. I'm like, let's try to do this, let's try to do this.
Wow.
In this particular painting, it didn't, I love this painting, I love how it turned out, and there's actually a Caspar David Friedrich painting that has a man, but this is my sister-in-law, in a black cloak, standing on a mountain overlooking things. And I didn't think about that when I actually did this photo shoot, but then after a while I'm like, oh yeah, I love that painting. And sometimes there's these subconscious things that happen. But the idea for this painting was she was going to be off-roading this buggy through the wilderness. It was 30 below zero the day that we did this photo shoot. This is in Wisconsin with the wind chill. I took 3 or 4 photos of her going into the wind, and it was just like, she's like, ah. It's like, so I had to rethink something up.
Huh, interesting.
This is my sister-in-law, this is my sister-in-law. She had a baby 2 months premature, and at the same time she was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. She's totally clear of the cancer, so that's great. She's been free of that for a while. and our niece is now 10 years old. She just turned 10 right before Christmas. But I'm trying to maybe be empathetic to this person, and I hope that you would be too. When you look at this painting, we're behind this person, they're looking at the horizon, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life.
Yeah.
And I think that we've all been sometimes at that fork in the road, like, well, this is an intense moment, we have to make a decision here. Occasionally people are stand-ins for me, but I don't, or sometimes I don't even realize this until I'm doing the painting. So this is called Another New Year's Day. My wife posed for me a year after that other painting that I just showed you. And again, in Wisconsin, the temperature was 30 below zero with the wind chill. So it was a freezing cold day. My father had passed away the previous year, so this house is symbolic of that year. It's worn out, it's just not functioning correctly. Here she's dressed up, ready for a party, but obviously there isn't one that's going to be happening. And after I made this, while I was making this painting, it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, my wife is a stand-in for me. I even showed you those paintings of the kid hunting. When I started making the painting, I'm like, my dad took me hunting when I was 11, and I didn't feel prepared to like go out into the woods and possibly kill something at 11 years old with a gun. And you're dressed up, you kind of look like it's this like rites of passage, but you know, maybe you should be shooting things at 11 years old. I made a series of 3 paintings. Here we are the raft looking at the couple. It's hard to see here, but the raft is right there. She's looking longingly at the raft. We don't know what he's thinking. And then here we have the raft back here, and it looks like something tragic has happened, and he looks like he needs some immediate assistance or help. I should probably change the order of these, but notice she has like a black/grayish dress. I did this painting first, and after painting all of those patterns, I was like, I'm not gonna paint this dress again. So this is one of my former students, and I joke with her, like, you wore that dress just to get back at me, because it took hours and hours and hours to paint that. So then the next time, I was like, I'm just gonna make that dress plain. And yeah, there were things that were invented here, like what you were talking about. The photo shoot just had the bike and her, and so I put these in, and I put the white surrender flag in as well. So those were invented because I thought the painting needed something in terms of she needed something to almost be battling or confronting in some way. Now, some of that work is pretty serious, and I actually have some work that I think is a little bit more funny. And so I brought a painting for you guys to take a look at. You can touch this painting. I don't really care if you touch it. But if you go to an art museum, you can't touch the artwork at an art museum, okay? So just make sure that you know that. You will not cut yourself. See, I didn't cut myself. And this is called trompe-l'oeil. In French, that means trick the eye. Okay, so you can pass that around, take a look at that. In some ways, this painting is associated with the Taft Museum of Art's collection, because you guys have been there already, right? Mm-hmm. And when you were in the entryway with the Robert Duncanson murals, do you remember the faux finish framework of those big murals that were in, you remember that? Mm-hmm. Those frames kind of look real, but they're just painted to look real. Okay. So anyway, the painting that's being passed around is called No Laughing Matter. And here's my artist statement for this particular body of work, because I want to show you that you need to really be specific in terms of the writing that you do. I think I should have been a comedian, but I'm not smart enough, so I became a professor instead. Alright, here lies the basis of my self-deprecating art. I love the spotlight, using it to create humor. In the painting, No Laughing Matter, I don a gesture's hat, all while wearing a mean scowl on my face. Other paintings also explore my comedic side. I seem to get the best and most funny concepts, usually in moments of extreme boredom. How else could I come up with the idea of having a guy named Dad come and visit me in my studio? Does anyone take Spanish classes here? Yeah, what's the Spanish word for death? Muerte. My last name is Muente. Could be a U there, but I wanted to make it look old school. And a lot of times it looks like Muente, but it's pronounced Minty. Anyway, once I got some junk mail that said Kevin Muerte. I was like, Kevin, that? He's like, I'm here to get my mail. And I'm like, I'm out of here. Right? Wouldn't you guys be like that? Yeah? Or painting yours truly as a Sasquatch in the manner of Thomas Gainsborough. Does this tree form look familiar to you at all? Yeah, it kind of looks like a wave. But when you were at the Taft Museum of Art, you were in the music room. That's the room that's yellow with the chandeliers. There's the Rembrandt painting. You guys know what I'm talking about? You don't remember? The guy's getting up out of his chair. This is the round. This is.
We didn't end up spending a lot of time in that room, so they might not. But I mean, some of them are nodding, but we were like sort of running out of time at that point.
And then
Yeah.
there's also a big painting of two boys, and they're framed by this tree. It looks like it's an idyllic English landscape. And I was thinking, what if there were, like, I was asked to do a funny, well, it didn't have to be funny, but I was asked to do a painting for a Halloween show. I was like, oh, this would be a great time to do a funny painting of me as a Sasquatch. And the Sasquatch is homeless, he's just hanging out in this wonderful place, and for some reason he has a pet. And the title of this painting is called Most Sasquatch Would Eat You, I Will Keep You as a Pet. So that's my dog Olivia when she's a puppy. And this painting is probably about 16 years old. She's still alive and well. So, all right. I've brought a couple of other paintings for you guys to look at, and then we will start to talk about what's in artistry. How long does class go?
Till 9:07.
9:07? All right,
Yeah.
good. We're doing great. So here's the painting that I did. I actually just finished this painting just a couple of months ago, but the photo shoot took place about 3 or 4 years ago. So sometimes it takes me so long to make paintings that some of my ideas are kind of backlogged and I don't necessarily get to them. I'm currently working on a painting in my studio that I think I did a photo shoot for